In this video, I'm going to show you how to create this raised spot gloss effect inside of Blender for your wine bottle renders. You can use this on any other packaging if you would like. So I'm just going to do a quick overview. This is my material. It looks quite complicated and messy. Basically, we've just got the paper here. This is with our paper color and some of the paper textures. Then the next one here is the spot gloss, and then that is masked using a mask here, which masks between the paper texture and the spot gloss texture. And that just does it like this. I'll show you. If you Control Shift click the node like this, there's a white layer which reveals the spot gloss underneath, which is this Principled BSDF here. And then the black will show the paper texture if it loads. So then that goes through here. Then I've got a few things set up over here as far as displacement that I mix together. So I'm pretty much going to show you from this point on. And I've got other videos for paper textures. And if you want to see how a full label is set up, there is another video on my channel that goes through. It's about 40 minutes long. It goes through complete label setup. But for this, we'll just focus on masking out the spot gloss and then adding the paper texture as the displacement and also the bump. Before we jump in, I just want to let you know about my workshop, completely free. It'll go through the 3 elements that you must have for photorealistic renders. So it's designed to condense the 3 most important things that have improved my renders really fast in the last few months. So these are some of the renders I've just done in the last few months, and I'm going to go over some of the techniques to improve your own renders. And so it's completely free. All you have to do is put in your name and email and I'll send you instant access. It's about 45 minutes and it'll give you some tips to improve your renders indefinitely and hopefully shorten the time that it takes you to learn how to create photorealistic, this is the goal, photorealistic product renders. The link will be in the description below. Hope to see you over there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the label and I'm actually going to delete everything from here, X, and I'm just going to delete everything and then show you what happens here. Delete that one. So right now, all this is a paper texture. So this is currently the color texture from my design. So this is my label design. It goes through a mix color and it uses the factor, the alpha as a factor so that I can change the paper color in the background. So I can grab this, I can make it white, I can make it black. And so I can change the background color of this if I would like. So let's just keep it to something like white. Then that goes through a multiply, which multiplies the paper material color onto it, which is, it isn't much, but it's a little bit. So then, of course, there's your color ramp. I've just got this going through a color ramp. This is my roughness. So then I've got this going through a color ramp here, which that just removes some of the reflection in the paper and makes the paper not as glossy, which I didn't like. And then of course you've just got your normal map for the paper. This is a watercolor paper from Ambient CG, I believe it is. And then we've just got all this. So to do this properly, we actually need to jump into our design software of choice. So I've just got Affinity open. And what you'll notice is you've got a design here. This is my label design. What I'm going to do, you have your label design, right? And then what you're going to do is you're actually going to duplicate the areas that are actually displacement. So the areas that you're going to raise up inside of your model, you need to duplicate them. So this is how I set it up. So I would take this layer here. I would copy it, Control C, Control V, and I'm just going to drag this up to the top. Let's close my design layer. Let's hide these two layers. And then what we need to do is we want to make this into a displacement map. I've actually got another video on my channel that goes in depth into embossing and debossing, and that'll go in depth into creating a displacement map. I won't go as in detail in this video. So then we're just going to create a big rectangle in the background here, and you just need to place that below your design here. So then what I can do is select this design, and a displacement map basically works with black and white values. So white value gets raised up, a black value is either at the mid level, which it means it doesn't get moved, or you can actually set the mid level at 0.5, which Blender is by default, and then a black value would actually be decreased or debossed. So then we'll change just the text color to white. And then all I'm going to do here is just add on an effect. So select your layer. This is Affinity Designer, the new one. So add your Gaussian blur here, an effect. This is the beauty of using Affinity, which is now free, which is awesome. But basically why I use Affinity is because if you did this in Illustrator and exported it, displacement maps need to be at 16-bit color. And you can't by default change or export the color range from Illustrator because it's a raster software. So you've got to export it from Illustrator, import it into Photoshop, and then you have to increase this bit rate to 16-bit from 8-bit, and then export the PNG or TIFF out. Whereas because Affinity has both vector and pixel, as you can see up here, I'm working in vector now and then adding a pixel effect on it, which is Gaussian blur. It means that this can actually be exported at 16-bit. And another thing is, if this is done in a resolution of like 4000 by 4000 pixels, and we need more resolution in Blender, we can just export this at a higher rate because all this is vector. And then the pixel effects will just, I think they scale, or you might have to adjust them. Anyway, so we add a little bit of a blur to this, and this is what's going to give our displacement map bump. And I'm also going to use this as a mask. So we'll go File, Export, then we'll export as, and then you're going to go PNG. Now, I haven't worked this fully out, but you need to go 4000 by 4000 pixels, and then you want to go pixel format. You want to change this to either RGB 16-bit or grayscale 16-bit. And make sure it's a PNG, and you just export it from here. And then what you can do is just add it to your file here. So I'm going to use the one I already created. Then all you do is come in here. So maybe we'll work on our spot gloss first. So let's go Shift A. We want to add in an image texture here. And what I'm going to do is I'll get rid of that side there. So we'll drop our image texture up here. We want to open this. We want to bring in our assets. So I mean a 3D file over here. Displacement. So now we've brought in our image. If you can Control Shift click this, this is what our image looks like. And what we might do is actually set up displacement first. So I'll bring it over here. And by default, it's going to use the mapping or the UV mapping of our bottle. Shift A will search for a displacement node. And this will get plugged straight into the height. And then that'll get plugged into displacement. Now, one thing to note is you need to turn in the material settings, go to settings here, surface. You need to make sure displacement and bump is turned on. You also need to make sure that you've added a subdivision modifier here, and the adaptive subdivision is turned on. And to change the quality, you can decrease these dicing rates under the render settings subdivision dicing rate. And so you can set it to 2, 4, something like that. And the lower these are, the more tessellation and more detail you get in displacement, but it'll take longer to render. So here we have our displacement. Now the black is currently getting shifted down. So what I want to do is actually zero this out so that our mid-level is at the black, and that should work. Now I just want to connect this paper back in, so Control Shift. So there's our displacement, and theoretically if you just rendered that, give it a little bit of time, you would have a really funky displacement here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce those settings way down. So we're looking at the scale here. We're going to go 0, 1. We'll just see what that looks like. So not quite. Let's go 0, 0, 1. No, too much. 7 maybe. So I've got it at 0.007 currently. Let's go to 5. Alright, we'll see what that is. We haven't got our spot gloss on yet. We're going to go GX, and I'm going to add in a color ramp here. So we'll go color ramp. And then what I'm going to do is switch this from linear to ease. And that'll start to give us this sort of, I can't zoom in far enough. We're going to look at this, a soft edge. So what we can do is start pulling this in. I think I actually left that down, or maybe I pulled it up a little bit. And we're just sort of editing this edge. And I think I added a mid-level here. And what that does, so basically all I'm doing here is I'm pulling the edges in. So if you see here, let's bump all this up. Let's go to like 6 maybe. I'm hoping for it to render a bit faster. So all I'm doing here is bringing in the edge so it's closer to the edge of our design here. And then we can reduce this even further, so something like 3. Keep looking. Don't worry about the tessellation effect yet. Alright, that is good. Now I did have a paper texture that I want to mask this with. So I have a paper displacement, and I want this paper displacement to be affected over here, which it looks like this. So all I'm going to do is use itself as a mask. So we won't look at this just yet. We'll come back here to the principal BSDF. We'll Shift D, duplicate our displacement over here. This is what it looks like. And all I'm going to do is just use a color ramp, and I'm going to set this to constant. And that means I can just clip the edge like this. So bring it down, and you can see we've created a mask. Then what I can do is go Shift A. We'll go Mix Shader. Mix Shader. This is what mixes between our two objects. So currently we have it mixing at 50%. Mixes between two principal BSDFs. So then I can plug this into the Mix Shader. And there we go. So you can see there's a black, which is this empty shader slot here. So all I'm going to do is Shift A. We're going to go Principal BSDF. BSDF like this. Plug that guy in there. Reduce the roughness down, because obviously gloss doesn't have roughness. And then I'm going to grab my color from my design and plug that straight in there. So there we go. So the few things we want to do here, I just want to pull this edge in more. And all that is doing, if you look at it, And I can't remember which way to go. Either this way. That pulls it back. We're trying to expand this, yep. Just pull that back. And what you'll do is you'll look at the edge and where the gloss meets the other. And try to match it. So you're starting to get the effect. So one thing I did also was if you look at your gloss over here, let's look at that. I wanted to add a little bit of noise to this, so I added a noise texture. I think I put it to like 100. I think I put my detail to 4, and if you control shift click on this, you can preview this. Then I put my roughness to 1, and I put my displacement up to like 0.1. And all you're going to do here is add a color ramp. You're going to add it to ease so that the colors are a little bit more smooth. And I think I just pulled this something like this. And then you're going to plug it into a bump. You're going to go into the height of the bump and plug the bump out here. We can control shift click on the mix shader to preview all this. We want to be able to see it. So this is our bump right now. It's not really looking that great. So let's go add another 0 into the distance. And that'll shrink the size of this. Alright, there you go. And then I'll just reduce this to like 0.03, I think I had it. There you go. Now what you could do is if you want that to be a super clean edge, what you would do is come back here. You would turn off your effect, right? Turn off the Gaussian blur. You'd export it again. What I'd probably do is the spot gloss will take all this into account. So I'd probably fill all that in and just make a nice clean edge. You could decrease the blur maybe. Export that as a PNG. And you're just going to call that one underscore mask. Export it. And then you'll bring it in here. So you get rid of that. And you'll bring it in as a mask. And we'll get rid of the color ramp, because you don't need it anymore. And then that should go straight to the edge of everything here. Yep. I want to bring my strength up. Let's go distance to 2. So think of distance like the actual distance between the lowest point and the highest point. Then strength is just how much you're going to apply of that distance. So it's basically just reducing the effect of the distance. So if you wanted to work on your results here, and what I'm going to look at here, there's an edge there, and this will be to do with this guy. So it'll be to do with my displacement map here. I'm going to go something like that. And basically I'm just pulling that mid level across. And I'll just show you why we don't want to keep the, yeah, I'm not very happy with that because it's going into the, we want it at the edge of the embossing, so just keep adjusting it till you get to the edge. So we'll pull it in more maybe. Okay, this slowly getting there. Pull it in a little bit more. Alright, pretty happy with that. Now the reason I didn't move the white value here is because if I move this, it's going to change the center point here, or the max values. And so what it does is it will create a flat spot on top of it. See this? It's created a flat spot on top of my embossing, which maybe you want that effect, but if you keep the white point there and then just adjust the midpoint, you get this nice transition between these. And it creates this nice fall off, sort of this, it's sort of like, you can imagine it like, I'll bring it up, I'll draw it. It's sort of like this fall off, so that's the black there. The black is this point, the white is this point. So it gives you this fall off by moving the mid level across. And so that's the reason I keep it like that. Let's erase that. All right, so now I want to get this guy, my other displacement, into the height as well. So what I've actually got to do is mix the two. So I'm going to go mix, and we want to mix color. Put that there, put this guy in there. And I'm going to mix it by this. Mix by, we've got a mask here that will tell me, that can select each slot. And then I'm just going to plug that into the mix shader here. And so it's probably best, so that's backwards. So you see the paper texture is appearing inside my embossing. So all I would do is either add an invert node, or you could just switch the sockets over. So you could just switch A and B, like plug that one into there. I just prefer to have an invert node, so it's a little bit neater when we're going into the sockets and not crisscrossing. So I would also fill in these little gaps in my mask, like in here. What I would do is probably make a new layer. We get a brush. We get white. You need white. You would come in here, and I would actually just draw these ones in. Oops. And sort of clean up this. You can do it with vector. Clean up all those spots inside for the mask. Because realistically, that's going to be hot gloss all over. Alright. That's what you do. Alright, let's have a look at this. Alright, so you got the paper texture now. And then if you want to just reduce this effect, you can use, you could probably use a min. Is it, what's the name of it? Map range map range node. And so you could change this to, just leave that. And you're going to go from 0 and 1 And then you're just going to shrink it. So I'm going to shrink it to the mid-level here. So let's go to 0.5. And that should reduce the effect of this paper. So 0.7. You see the paper? It reduces it, the effect. And basically, this is the white values. So if you think of like white and black, that's white here and black. So it's just, all it's doing is just compressing that white value down to 0.7, and you could lift this up and it would compress it as well. And then that's reducing the effect. The reason I'm compressing down and leaving the black is because my mid-level is set to a value of 0. And so I want these two mid-levels equal. So that's how you get spot gloss. You could keep working with the effect if you want. But overall, that's a pretty good effect. And it's nice and glossy. And it looks really cool. Alright, that's it for this video. Of course, don't forget to join the workshop if you're interested. And there's tons of other tutorials on my YouTube channel if you would like them. Full setups on how to do a complete label setup. I've got a video there explaining embossing and debossing, which will help you understand how displacement maps actually work, which is worth a watch as well. And if you have any questions, drop them down below.